Welcome to Avis eForms Wizard. My name is Suzanne and I'm going to take you through the setup of your Avis eForms Wizard installation. When you launch Avis eForms Wizard for the first time, you will be taken to this screen and it will default to the File menu option. Simply click on Setup, and of course we're going to show you how to configure your agency information, your producer information, and some basic other configuration options available to you. Well, let's start off with agency information. You can see it begins by adding your agency. I'm going to go ahead and type in my agency name, my contact information, and of course my address. You can see there's space for both your phone number as well as your fax, and of course also your email address. Once you've completed, go ahead and hit Submit, and you'll be taken back to the main screen. I'm going to show you how to add a second location in the event that you have more than one location for your agency. Let's add a South office, so we're going to call it South Branch, contact name, and of course we'll add an address. And a phone number, and a fax number, and of course an email address. Once you've completed, you can hit Submit. You can add as many locations as you choose. Additionally, at any point in time, you can edit your agency setup, or you can, of course, delete the agency name or the agency setup and start over. We're going to go ahead and submit this, be taken back to the main screen, and you can see it alerts you if you've got a field that's not been corrected. And we'll go back just so you can see what the setup now looks like. We have our agency information across the top here. Like I said, at any point in time, you can edit that information simply by clicking on the Edit button, or you can click on the Delete button to delete it. We're going to cancel this request. Then, of course, you can also see that I can edit my branch information also just by clicking in the space. I am then able to view a set default to set this as my default agency location, as well as edit it and delete it. Now, because I've selected the main office as my default agency, anytime I start a new client application or anytime I open up a set of forms or add a new form, it will go ahead and populate the agency information on the form from my setup menu. Let's go ahead and move on to producer information. Click on your producer icon and go ahead and just click the Add Producer button. Type in your producer information and simply select the agency that you want to associate that producer with. And of course, fill in their national producer number as well as the state producer number if you have it. Once you are done, just simply hit Submit, and of course, you'll be taken again back to the main menu. Let me show you how to add another producer. You can see that the producer that I've added has been set as my default, and again, I can edit this producer information or I can delete it. But we're going to go ahead and add another producer. And we're again going to select another agency, and we're going to put in our numbers as well as the state producer number. And again, Submit will record that information and take us back to the main menu. The next option that you have available to you is configuration options. Simply click on the configuration options menu and you can see you have a number of different settings which I'm going to orientate you with. The very first one is a default folder structure where you want everything that you save within Avis eForms Wizard to be stored at. This is in the event that you're working on a client application and you deliberately want to do a save as function to save the application set as a PDF or to save it as a proprietary Avis file. I have set it up to save on my local drive in a folder structure. To change it, just simply click on the Browse key and browse to the location that you want to save your information. Anytime you're working on a client application folder, from time to time, Avis eForms Wizard will be saving that client folder information. So that's the client contact information, as well as all of the applications within the folder for which you want to quote for your client. By default, again, my client application folders are being stored on my local directory. However, it's often advisable that you store them out on a OneDrive folder. This way you have a virtual backup of everything that you're doing within Avis eForms Wizard. So if you're saving everything to this OneDrive, of course, at any point in time that you need to restore or get back to that information due to an error with your laptop, you'll be able to do so. Now, in the event that you're going out to the field and you specifically want to work with a client application and you might not have access to the internet, that's a perfect opportunity for you to go ahead and save that client application folder to a place on your local PC or your local laptop so that you have access to it when you go out to the field and you do not need internet connectivity. I have also been presented with the option to display tooltips. At any point in time when I'm working with a given client folder, you will notice a couple of things. First of all, you will notice that when the applications load, they will default to a color so that I, at any point in time, understand where I am in the client application. If I, for some reason, put a field or complete a field with information that's not valid, I have set up my system to go ahead and to highlight that in red, as you can see was done here. You'll also notice that as I hover at any point in time, I have some tips and hints that tell me how to populate that given field. And that's because I have tooltips turned on. Let's go back to our setup so I can show you that configuration. So you can see that errors in field are highlighted in red. I'm going to go ahead and change that to be highlighted in yellow. And you can see that focused form field. So as I tab through and fill out the fields, I've asked it to highlight those in green. I'm going to go ahead and change that to a light pink color so you can see how that changes on the form. I also have my display tooltips checked or turned on, and you can easily turn that off or on. And I have the fact that it's going to highlight required fields also selected or turned on. You also may have noticed that when I pulled up that application, it asked me if I wanted to select from my default the agency information and the producer information to populate the form. That's because I have my solution turned on to ask me before it automatically changes the agency and the producer information on the form to whatever I have set as a default. I can change this setting and have it always select the agency and producer information that I set as a default earlier when I populated my agency and producer information, or I can tell the system that whenever I launch a new client application or a new application itself or add an application to that client folder to just go ahead and use the default and never ask me whether or not I want to override or change the information. By default, when the product comes to you, it will be defaulted to ask you. So you'll be prompted, as I was, to select the agency or client information. Let's go back to our form one more time so I can show you how the changes in the display fields affect what we just defined as our error field highlight color and our focus field highlight color. So again, as I tab through this form, you'll notice now it changes my form color. If I go up to this box, and again, I have an error in my date, it will now highlight it in yellow. This concludes our agency setup information, producer setup information, and basic configuration options for Avast eForms Wizard. If you have any questions, please call technical support, and we'd be happy to assist you.